The first frost, you know what was happening. You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. Cancer.
Joe Biden has stage 4 cancer. It is prostate cancer with metastasis to the bone. This is typically considered to be terminal, and they are claiming now that he has just been diagnosed, but let's not mince words. This is an advanced, aggressive form of prostate cancer that's already in his bones, meaning, well, according to various sources in my research, could take a decade to reach that level. More importantly, if it was particularly aggressive, it would take at least a couple of years. I've done a little bit of cursory research. My friends, with the routine exams a president gets, it is beyond unlikely. That's an understatement. It is inconceivable that they missed this cancer. Now, Joe Biden in the past, several years ago, said that he had cancer. And we kicked off Timcast IRL that night with that lead story. Joe Biden says, quote, "I have cancer." Well, he said, "I and so many others have cancer." The immediate response from the media was, he's talking about skin lesions. They're lying. They were lying then. They're lying now, my friends. This may be one of the biggest scandals in U.S. history, if not the biggest. And I'll tell you why. The likely scenario is that this man was incapable of doing his job, was dealing with an aggressive form of cancer that's now in his bones, was incapable of signing these documents, signing these pardons, of doing the job they claimed he was doing. They tried to pass him off. They wanted him to run again. They wanted him to be president right now. But I will tell you, based on the information that we have, it seems entirely plausible that Joe Biden was diagnosed with cancer before entering office in 2021. It's currently 2025. And if this is, if we're going to average out the basic data, he could have had this cancer and it could have been known about for 5 or 6 years. That's if we're just averaging out the time span for what the sources say. And I mean cursory internet searches. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying I look up the average data, and here's what it says. It could be 10 years to metastasize to the bones. This means they probably knew the whole time. Now, there had been reports in the past year or so, or I'm sorry, a couple of years, about Joe Biden suffering medical emergencies, being rushed to the hospital. The man has an aggressive form of cancer in his bones and prostate. And again, it is considered terminal. This is, it's insane. I think their plan was Joe Biden would run again. They would campaign off of Trump is bad. That's the only thing they have. And then they expected Joe Biden to pass away from this terminal illness, and Kamala Harris would then become the president. But he couldn't make it. They had no choice but to swap him out and try Kamala at the last minute. They were hoping Biden was going to make it through to the end, but, make it through to this next election. I'm at a loss for words as to how insane this story really is. We had no president. This was a coup. Some kind of coup. I don't know. But Joe Biden clearly was not running the ship. How can he be? Maybe that's why people thought Jill was. Let's read the news and I'll break this down for you. ABC News reports former President Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis. What does a Gleason score of 9 mean? It means catastrophic. That's what I'll tell you what it means. 8, 9, or 10 means aggressive. Former President Joe Biden is battling an aggressive form of prostate cancer, his office announced on Sunday, adding his condition is characterized by a Gleason score of 9. His office also said Biden's diagnosis included metastasis to the bone. Biden's cancer diagnosis comes after a small nodule was found in the former president's prostate after a routine physical exam on Tuesday. The discovery of the nodule necessitated further evaluation. In February of 23, while the now 82-year-old former president was serving the White House, Biden had a lesion removed from his chest that was cancerous, according to a former White House physician. Additionally, before entering office, Biden had several non-melanoma skin cancers removed with Mohs surgery. As the world reacts to Biden's medical news, ABC News has broken down what his condition means and what possible treatments can be done. My friends, I think those are all lies. I think they knew very well. And I'll show you. Let's start here. Excuse me. We have this video that Nick Sorter has resurfaced. I'd like to play for you first.
And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible, my mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
He outright said, I and so many others have.
People I grew up have cancer. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
Have, not had. They claimed he got lesions removed. That explains it. They're lying. Nobody believes it. I don't think any sane, rational person could believe it. This was their excuse to say that when he said, I have cancer. No. He meant he had cancer. They removed it. No. Dr. Drew says, to be fair, beginning with the finding of a nodule and then discovering advanced disease does not pass the sniff test. Someone not receiving adequate or routine health care, this would make some sense, but does not fit the level of medical supervision given to POTUS. From Dr. Drew. He's a doctor. Now you may be saying, but he is but a TV doctor. Take a look at this. Chris Bray tweets, a year ago, Jennifer Van Laar provided detailed evidence that Joe Biden had a medical emergency in Las Vegas. Today, we hear that Biden has advanced cancer, which can't possibly be new. He's been sick for years. In this tweet, going back to August 9th, breaking Las Vegas police recordings released from Biden's medical event and Code 3 transport to airport. We have this from Carly Bond. The doctor on Morning Joe today said Bush, Obama, and Trump all had their this prostate test, and it was reported. But Joe Biden did not. Why is that? Are we supposed to believe that Joe Biden was the only president in recent history who said, I'm not going to get a prostate exam? No, he likely got it. And what did they find? Advanced cancer.
It's hard to know. We're speculating here. I would say in an abundance of caution, probably be holistic and comprehensive. That would make sense. It is interesting to note that President Trump's, President Obama's, and President Bush II, in their most recent physicals, in their terms of office, obviously 2025 for President Trump, did comment on their PSA levels. And so they got screened while in office, and they commented on it. It's not easy to access the most recent ones from President Biden. You can read the summary articles. I couldn't access it on the archive site on the White House just before I came on. But according to those that were able to, there is not a report of a PSA test on the most recent physical that was read out for President Biden's last year in office. And so it's to say what was done, what was not done. You and I would be speculating, but the other three most recent occupants of the White House had it drawn, and it was reported out in the case of President.
And there it is. That's from a guest on MSNBC. I believe, let's get the doctor's name. I think it's important. What is his name? I think it's Dr. Gupta. Dr. Vin Gupta. Laura Loomer. Watch. Biden's brother Frank just said he looks forward to spending, quote, whatever time we have left with Joe Biden. And this post is from 2024, July of 24.
He is a genuine, had a brief conversation with Frank Biden, one of President Biden's two younger brothers. And here's what he told us. He said, I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine hero. Country over self. It sounds corny in our cynical political environment, but he nor I are cynical. The goal remains the same. Defeat Trump and continue the work that Joe has done.
Whatever time we have left. Now, some have said, well, it's because they had an excuse for everything. Well, Biden's old. I mean, he's past the average life expectancy. What time do they have left? Seriously? They expected us to believe that? We've got a lot more. Here's a photo I posted. Everyone knew. Here's an image of Joe Biden holding up his hand with what appears to be a puncture wound on his hand over a vein. Now, I posted that picture into our good old friend ChatGPT and said, what is this? And it said, an elderly man with a close-up on his hand showing a puncture wound from IV medication. Yeah. And then, of course, we have this one. Andrew at Don't Walk Run in 2023, posting the images of Joe Biden with a strange mark on his face that they said was from his CPAP machine. Joe Biden suffering from skin cancer. What does he got? He's got a chest lesion, skin melanomas. He's got sleep apnea. He's got a stutter. Man, maybe he was just dying of cancer. He was wearing an oxygen mask because he was dying of cancer and still is. They claimed that Joe Biden was just sleeping with a CPAP machine for sleep apnea. It's no big deal. Everybody's got it. It's a common thing. The mark is still on his face when he's giving an interview. How long does that last on your skin? 15 minutes? That means he literally walked out of the room after having something strapped to his face. And they said it was a CPAP machine. So he was sleeping right before this interview. I went to our friend ChatGPT, not because I believe AI is always right, but because I want to show you the general answers you get when you ask about this degree of cancer. What I find interesting about ChatGPT in this regard is that while it does hallucinate, they call it, get things wrong, ChatGPT is essentially aggregating the data on these questions. And this is the internet generic view. I asked, what stage of cancer is prostate cancer with metastasis to the bone? It responded, prostate cancer that is metastasized to the bone is classified as stage 4, specifically stage 4B under the American Joint Committee on Cancer staging system. It means the cancer is spread to distant body parts of the body, such as bones, lungs, liver, or distant lymph nodes. This is considered advanced or metastatic prostate cancer and typically requires systemic treatment like hormone therapy, chemotherapy, or newer targeted therapies. I asked, is it terminal? Yes. Metastatic prostate cancer to the bone is considered incurable and often terminal. But it's not always immediately fatal. You can live with proper treatment. It is treated as a chronic disease in many cases with the goal of slowing progression. Median survival can range from 2 to 5 years, but some patients live longer. I then asked, do presidents get routine prostate exams? Yes. U.S. presidents typically undergo routine prostate evaluations as part of their annual physical examinations. These evaluations often include a digital rectal exam and may involve prostate-specific antigen, PSA, blood testing, especially if the individual is within the age group at high risk for prostate issues. For instance, during his presidency, Obama did this. Similarly, former President Joe Biden's recent diagnosis of aggressive prostate cancer followed the discovery of a small nodule. Indeed. Well, there's more. Would these routine exams discover prostate cancer with metastasis to the bone? Yes, routine prostate exams can detect prostate cancer before it metastasizes to the bone if done regularly and properly. I then said, how long does it take to advance to this stage? Prostate cancer typically takes years, often a decade or more, to progress from early stage to metastatic bone disease. But the timeline varies greatly depending on the cancer's aggressiveness. They mention high risk, a Gleason score of 8 to 10, may spread to the bones in as little as 1 to 3 years without treatment. Meaning, a year ago, this man was president. They didn't give him an exam. He didn't get a prostate exam. They didn't check for this stuff. That's the argument they're making. They're saying, well, because he's so old, they figured that it was pointless to do. That's literally one of the arguments they're making. I said, would a president typically undergo exams that would catch this early? Yes. And this is me basically asking twice. A president would typically undergo regular exams that are designed to catch prostate cancer before it metastasizes. And then I asked, do you think a regular person would believe that a diagnosis like this was only just discovered in a president who just left office? No. And this is funny. This is an opinion statement. ChatGPT says, no, most regular people would likely be skeptical if a president was diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer right after leaving office, especially if it spread to the bone. Presidents receive frequent, detailed medical exams, often annually or more. Metastatic prostate cancer doesn't usually develop suddenly. It typically shows signs years before metastasis. The public expects transparency. A serious condition being kept secret until after leaving office raises suspicions of intentional concealment. Bone metastases usually signal years of undetected or untreated cancer. It strains belief that this would only be found days or weeks after a president steps down unless the disease was aggressively fast-growing, rare, or information was withheld until politically convenient. And there it is. Most people would likely assume that cancer had been developing and possibly known well before the public was informed. But to be fair, my friends,
you had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
this was in 2023, I believe he said it. Alex Berenson tweeted, "Welp, welp. Biden's cancer," and a screenshot. "Biden's cancer is a little convenient, don't you think? Weird to believe they just found it, and it's already in his bones. My dad had prostate cancer. It took 12 years to get to his bones." Someone responded, "Not the right time for this dude." Apparently someone from, I think, Mediaite, maybe. To which Alex said, "Apparently it is the right time. People are beyond sick of the media feeding them idiotic lies and then telling them they're mean or immoral if they point out they've been lied to. Enough! We all knew this, and I am sick of them lying and claiming we're crazy. You know, right now, I'm a big fan of Cash and Dan, so we're gonna see what's going on. But they came out and they said Epstein took his own life. The reaction from the internet is nice try. Doesn't matter who you are, ain't nobody buying it. Now I don't know why they'd say that, but part of me thinks maybe Epstein really did. I mean, to be honest, crazy guy, end of his rope, and said, "This is the end. I'm out." Especially considering they have tens of thousands of videos of him with kids. That's crazy. Maybe he was like, "I'm out." But nobody believes it. And nobody will believe it. Sorry. We are sick of it. Every single time, what have we found? That the wisdom of the crowd has been correct. That the regular people challenging these narratives have been correct. And the media has lied about everything. Well, literally everything. Calm down. But all of these major narratives, there's always some convenient excuse. We just missed terminal stage 4 cancer until now, a few months after he leaves office. Absolutely. Absolutely not. They were trying to pass off a terminally ill man and get him to run, get him to win, and then when he passed, Kamala would be president. That was the game plan. The question then is, as we move forward in this narrative, who signed those pardons? Who did it? Who signed those pardons? Who signed anything that he did? The man is infirm. He can barely speak, and he's presumably had serious cancer for a long time. And it appears that they're struggling to treat it, despite claims to the inverse. Considering that it's likely been this long, I'm sick of the lies. The fact that we had a terminally ill president concealed to the American people who was incapable of doing his job calls into question everything that he's done. Everything. It puts it all up for challenge, for legal review. The DOJ, there's a pardon attorney is already reviewing the pardons. I believe, I'll pull it up in a second. I have it all pulled up for the next segment. They're arguing that the pardons are illegitimate because Biden clearly didn't sign them. And now, with the book coming out showing that his brain was fried and the news report that he was terminally ill, did anything that he had done, is anything that he's done legal? I think it could be challenged and easily thrown out. If a nation cannot answer these questions and has serious, reasonable doubts as to whether or not the man was actually serving as president, if that is the case and we do nothing, what precedent do we set? The president is a figurehead who does nothing? No, I think now we open investigations, bring people in, subpoena them. I think we should subpoena the doctor of Joe Biden, grant him immunity so that he can't plead the fifth, and then hear what he has to say about this. Because you know what? His career is over. How did you miss advanced prostate cancer? You must be a bad doctor. I'm going to leave it there, my friends. Smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. We got a lot to break down today, so stay tuned, and we'll see you all in the next segment.